ISIS has a brand new method of warfare. The Pentagon has confirmed the terror group has used chemical weapons against the Kurdish Peshmerga group in Iraq. Justice and Homeland Security correspondent Jeff Pegues and senior national security analyst Juan Zarate broke down what this means for the United States' fight against terror in this week's Flashpoints.
It's not a game changer with respect to the threat in general. We've known that ISIS has not only maintained territory and momentum, but has been advancing in terms of its weaponry. And there have been concerns that ISIS has gotten its hands on chemical weapons. So that concern is not new. The fact that it's being confirmed, though, that they used it against Peshmerga, and the U.S. has to confront it, may be a game changer. And that may be the real problem here. The reality that ISIS is continuing to expand and adapt, and to adapt in ways that are incredibly dangerous. You now have the preeminent terrorist group, the leading vanguard of this violent Islamic extremist movement that has decided to use chemical weapons. That begins the nightmare scenario that we've always talked about, which is WMD in the hands of terrorists.
And so how does the U.S. respond? There are going to be a lot of questions, certainly now that the Pentagon has confirmed this. How does the U.S. respond?
Well, there's several layers to this. First is, how do we respond to help our allies on the ground who are fighting a force that may be using chemical weapons wantonly or in strategic ways? You know, how do you help the Kurds? How do you help the Sunni allies, for example? How do you help the Iraqis? How do you help our Syrian allies? If they're coming across a group that's not only ferocious, that's not only willing to use barbaric methodologies, but now willing to use chemical weapons. So I think that's the first order of battle. How do you help on the ground? Second question is a larger strategic question, which is, can we simply sit back and contain this problem, which is really our strategy right now?
You think that's the strategy now?
I think that's the strategy. I think anyone who looks at it objectively has to admit that that's what we're doing.
Why do you say that?
Well, we say that we want to degrade and destroy ISIS. There is some degradation happening, but there isn't the element of resources, attention, sense of pace and urgency to suggest that there's a strategy to destroy ISIS in the short term.
Well, when you say resources, are you talking boots on the ground?
Potentially boots on the ground, but it could be special forces, could be targeteers, could be a whole assortment of folks, not including the 101st Airborne.
Well, yeah, they've picked up airstrikes out of Turkey, right? I mean, isn't that a sign that they're increasing the offensive?
I think that's right, and I think there's no question we're trying to degrade where we can. The reality, though, is in thinking about what are we actually trying to achieve in terms of destroying this group. Over a year, this group has held the second largest city in Iraq, Mosul. They still hold the capital of Anbar. They still hold a third of the territory in Iraq, to include vital resources and banks even. They control Raqqa and key parts of Syria. They've been developing new methodologies to attack. They're inspiring folks from not just the Middle East, but also America's heartland. So, the reality is, to destroy this group, you actually have to take territory away from it. You have to destroy the very essence and romance of the movement. We're not doing that. And I think, we can say we're trying, but the reality is we're not.